How long would it take to build a six-figure online?
Very good question. Very good question.
The question that I have for Lynn is, realistically speaking, how long would it take for someone to build a six-figure online? And the two contexts that I'd like you to kind of dive deeper into is the first one being someone who is already an expert and they have offline expertise, offline clients, to going to online and expanding that.
For sure.
And
For sure.
someone else who has an expertise but has no offline experience and no online experience either.
Very good question. Very good question. So how long does it take to do six figures? If we break down six figures, it's $100,000. If we break that down into months, it turns into $8,333 per month, assuming that you can have recurring income. Now, mathematically, this is what the equation looks like if we do the math. And if you're charging $200 a month, then it works out to be somewhat 22 or so clients. If you're charging $200 a month, is my math correct? The client?
20 clients?
Yep, I'd say, sorry, no, it isn't 20 clients.
It's
actually 40.
Yeah.
It's 40. It's 42 clients. So you need 42 clients at a recurring $200 a month to be able to go, cool, I've made 100K a year. Okay. So how long does it take to get to this equation? So if you are an expert, this is ultimately what it looks like for you. And if you come in, Kerry, really, this was funny because last night we took, was it about 8 coaches that were just starting this week, 8 coaches to actually build out their key areas of expertise. If you know what the result that your program offers, and if you know the biggest problem that your result solves, then in my formula, there's a couple of things that you're going to need to do. The first thing is, first and foremost, you're going to need to identify your USP and ultimately your result that you own. Like, what is that singular result that you want to be known for in the marketplace? This generally takes us anywhere between, a day to 7 days. And this is just sitting on it, refining it, crafting it, figuring out what the USP is, figuring out your point of difference, studying your competitors, knowing your target market's pain, knowing your niche, what their biggest problem is, and then what are all the stories around this.
And USP is unique selling proposition.
Yeah.
So for those of you that don't know the terminology, it's putting yourself uniquely into the market.
Correct. And so this generally takes about 7 days. And this is what I like to call the foundation of any business, any expert's business. And unfortunately, with a lot of online coaches that actually don't build the foundations, and so they start marketing, they start selling, they start creating their product without the foundations, and that's when all the shit falls to shit, which then means we need to go back to the foundation. So the very first point, of course, figuring out the foundation. What is the result that you own? What is the biggest problem that you solve? Who wants what you have? What are their stories around buying from you? If you don't know this question, you need to figure out the answers to these questions. Otherwise, you're not going to get any traction. Once you have that, very more often than not, the second phase is, I won't clear this, but the second phase, we then move on to building out the product. And the product is a byproduct of the result that you own. Okay, so a lot of the times building out a product is actually very simple, because if you go, hey, Lynn, I'm a competition prep coach and I help, I've got a 12-month program that can get skinny natural bodybuilders on stage over the next 12 months. Well, you sit down and you map out your product and you build out your product as if you were consulting a client one-to-one. That is, Kerry, you're competing next year, 12 months from now, what are the steps that I'm going to take Kerry through if I was talking to her as a one-to-one client?
Mm-hmm.
So I'd be like, okay, if it was me, I don't do much coaching ever in my life, but I would go in and I'd start off working on building up her strength. So I would have this whole phase around getting her strength, getting her eating right, getting her to put on muscle, obviously then getting her stronger before we shave her down, which, cut off the fat, right? So whatever process that you would actually go through that, and then build out your product. And so these are the steps. The next thing that ultimately would happen, and this generally takes about anywhere from 17 to 14 days. Now, during this 7 to 14 days, what generally happens is we're marketing at the same time. So once we figure out the USP, the result, we then build the product. What happens underneath that is we're marketing. And what we're doing with marketing is we're trying to write an ad that gets the right prospect's attention. We're then trying to pull this person into our marketing ecosystem where we can deliver value to them, where we can put a series of videos up, where we can deliver value. All this is value-based. And then we can generate applications from this to join our program. This is what marketing is. And so this, in the backbone, remember, it takes about 7 days to build out somebody's unique selling proposition, their result. This takes 14 days. And so we're 21 days into working together. And by the end of the 21 days, what naturally should happen, anywhere from 21 to 28 days, is you start to get applications and you start to close clients. Okay? So
can I just backtrack just a little bit? Because in other episodes, we also mentioned about how we position you as the expert is that you have a system. When you build out the product, you're building out that system that makes you uniquely you. And what we really essentially do in that product phase is we carve out that system of yours where you go, there's that individuality, but there's that also principle of what I teach as an expert. And I think that part's really important because without that, to me, I really believe that without the system, you're not going to be able to leverage yourself.
Yeah, correct. 110%. I absolutely agree. And I wanted to map out the timeline for everybody here. Now, if it takes you 7 days to figure out your USP, it then takes you another 14 days to build your marketing ecosystem. By the 21st day, you should be able to and aim to get one client per day. That's the key metric, profitably. One client a day profitably. That means you might have to generate 2 to 3 high quality applications inside your marketing ecosystem to be able to sell them at a year long at $200 a month. And then begin to go, well, if I need, 42 clients, then you add 42 days over to 21 and you approximately get, what do we get? We get 63 days. We get, on average, 63, possibly even 90 days, if you are an expert. If you are an expert, it will take me 63 to approximately 90 days to be able to get you to 6 figures, assuming that you're really good at what you do, assuming that you are a leader and you're an amazing coach. These are assumptions that I need to make. Now, Kerry asked me a different question. She said, well, then if they're not an expert, and you said, what was the second one?
Well, to give a real example for you guys as well, someone like Rob Forte in our system, he's generated over 40 clients over the last 40 days.
So he's reached that 6-figure mark in the last 40 days at this particular rate because he's an expert. He's coming out. He knows his result that he owns. We built the product. We then launch. We go to market. We then run ads specifically to pull in interest, pull them into the marketing, and then we go. And then really, like, even that in itself is fucking fast. Like, I say we play the long-term game, but at the same time, we play such a high-level micro game that we move so quickly on the ground. But we're always looking for long-term because ultimately you then factor in churn. And then you factor in other factors, and you're probably looking at 90 days to be able to build that recurring $8,000 to $10,000 a month mark. And then the next steps are amplification of that. How do you scale that? How do you scale your marketing? How do you scale your sales? How do you go in and bring in onboarding coaches and other people into your coaching delivery system to ensure that the results get better as you scale?
The secondary part to my question
Yeah.
was that we can position and build someone into an expert
Yep.
by building them the system,
Correct.
which is in that first 14-day phase.
For sure.
But they don't have any offline experience or online experience for that matter.
Mm.
And what is that realistic expectation for them on that skill building phase
For sure.
that they have to go through?
So here's the reality of this, and it's almost asking me like, how long's a piece of string? I think the thing that a lot of people need to do is they need to do a lot of things if you don't know what you do. And the reasons why you need to do a lot of things is because you want to figure out what you're good at and what you like and what you're passionate about and what you're not passionate about. And by doing a lot of things, by working with a whole variety of avatars, niches, mums, dads, powerlifters, bodybuilders, calisthenics, ketos, etc., you go out into the marketplace and you go, okay, what am I actually really passionate about? And what do I actually want to do? And what is my message? And the thing is, I know when you're first starting out, it's very, very daunting because you go, well, I don't want to make any mistakes telling you what to do. But that's very counterintuitive because you, in your gut, the only thing that's going to drive you forward is the reasoning, the purpose, the why behind what it is that you do and why your message is unique and why the world needs to hear it. If you don't have a message that you believe is worth marketing, you won't market it. And if you don't market your message, you don't get clients. You don't get clients, your business doesn't grow. It's a very simple equation. And so coming back down to this, it's honestly, it is going to take you, it's not about time, it's more about experience and data. So time's a bad indicator because I can tell you, hey, you know what, it might take you 5 years, but you don't do anything over 5 years. It might take you 3 months, but you don't do anything for 3 months. It's actually data. And I would go out there and start coaching 100 people. Like 100 is a good start to go, you know what, go and speak to 100, go and coach them, go and work with them, go and get 100 people results, and then come back and then figure out what you want to do and where you want to wedge yourself and where your passion really lies. Now that 100 client mark could take you 3 months, it could take you 6 months, heck, it could take you 5 years. I don't know, but the sooner you get there to that 100 mark, the sooner you will begin to realize, wait, I really enjoy doing this. I really enjoy working with these people. I don't enjoy working with these people, and fuck, these people piss the hell out of me. And so the message that I want to bring is if I could just shake these people up and tell them how it is, I could really help them get to the other side. And I think that's how you develop and craft your message, by doing a lot of things to figure out what you don't want to do. And ultimately that guides you to figuring out what you do want to do by a process of elimination.
I want to also emphasize when you said to broaden the scope of your coaching to 100 people and broaden that to mums, dads, and all of the different demographics. Because there is one thing that I note when people come to me and tell me who they enjoy working with the most. I know you know what I'm going to say. It's the business people.
Whoever's got the money.
Who has the money, who pays on time.
Right.
And those essence, they're not the demographics that you train someone to pay on time.
Correct.
Right? They're not the right people that you want to work with, because truthfully speaking, from coming from a corporate perspective, if I were to train corporate people, I would be bored as hell.
Yeah. And ultimately it then comes down to, a lot of the times when you're trying to figure out what your message is, it's sitting down and figuring out what is that change that you want to bring into the world. You so strongly, but like that's such a cliche, but what is the change that you want to bring into the world? And the only reasons and the only way that you figure out what change that you want to bring out to the world is to experience what's out there in the world so that you know what you can change. Go and get 100 clients. The sooner you get to 100 clients, the sooner this model can then apply to you. And then that way, you can grow a successful business rather than trying to figure out who I want to work with and never actually getting anywhere because you're not willing to work with anybody and everybody to figure out who you don't want to work with. I think that really sums this up, hey? Yeah.
I really love that.
And at the end of the day, look, I actually think, like we play such a long-term game because we go, business is something that you want to create to have security for yourself. And most people that create a business don't create security for themselves. And so they stress the fuck out. Consistency and predictability of client revenue, consistently bringing more revenue because you're bringing in a client a day, because you have a marketing ecosystem. And the only reasons why your marketing ecosystem will work is because you know who you're talking to and what biggest problem they have to solve, because you know that you can solve it based on the USP work that we did on the ground level. And most
I'm nodding my head
people,
so hard because that is like spot on.
like,
that your insecurity, it dissolves because there's so much consistency in your message to market, to sell,
correct,
to coach. There's just that full congruency rather than doing the tactics, as we were saying yesterday.
Yeah. So I really then go, okay, well, I want to elaborate on that. And I go, well, get to six figures. If you're an expert, you're looking between 60 and 90 days. If you're fucking good at what you do. If you haven't figured out what you want to own, then that's how long is a piece of string. Go and do the 100 reps and then figure it out. Then we talk about, well, how long does it take to scale to 7? I think, Kitty's probably the only person that's been there in like 11 months, from 0 to $100,000 a month. Nick and Anthony took 18 months to get there. I haven't had enough data, I haven't had enough data to figure out what that line is. But so I'm going to say between 11 and 18, assuming, because every time we've gotten people there, we've looked back, we've identified what stops them, what are all the bottlenecks, what are the things, so that we can speed up that process. I'm saying between 11 and 18. And I go, the only thing that's going to take you from 6 to 7 is your ability to amplify and leverage what got you to 6. You will never get to 7 if you don't have the foundation. And so most people can kind of grind their way to 6 and multiple 6 figures, but they never get to 7 because the foundation's off. That is a result, the USP is off. And so you can't scale something if you don't have the fundamentals of it in place. I think that's very, very important. And so, yeah, this was actually quite a fun one. I might even go back and swap this over to how quickly can you get to $100,000. But that was fun.
That was fun.
Yeah. Well, guys,
it's fun hanging out with you.
I know, it was really, 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 really good. If you have any questions on what was discussed on today, just leave a comment down below, or find us over YouTube or wherever you're listening and watching this from. And then be more than happy to dissect this with you. Go and speak to Coach Bakul and Dan, and they can talk to you about this system and how you can get up and running as soon as possible to get to 6 figures quickly. But at the end of the day, don't think that we're short term, because we're so fucking long term. But at the micro level, it's speed of implementation that matters. So I think that's all from us today.
That's all, folks.
Have a wonderful.
Thanks for tuning in.
Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you on the next episode, guys.
Yesterday wasn't easy. I had to say goodbye